about this whole aspect of diligence or hard work in life. Whether you're pursuing spiritual goals or whether you're pursuing career goals, business goals, or whether you're pursuing professional goals, whatever goals we are pursuing, one common factor for us to reach those goals is hard work. Every one of us, regardless of what area, what field, we have to put in that. And so we want to, take time to listen to their stories, how, their journey, coupled with faith in God. And what we also want, so each one is going to take 10 minutes to talk about their stories. All right? Now, before we do that, how many of you are students? How many of you are preparing to write exams? Could you just quickly put your hand up, please? Okay, you got your exams coming up in next month. So just put your hand up. We've got a little publication for you. It's called Facing Exams with Confidence. So why don't we just go and give that out? Just put your hand up. They come and give you this little book. So it'll help you prepare for your exams. It's called Facing Exams with Confidence. Put together by some of our people who run our Catalyst program that goes into schools. If you want to take extra copies, you are most welcome to take extra copies. Give it to all your friends who are afraid of their exams. You can just do that. Okay? So while these things are going out, let me just introduce to you our panel. I have my dad, Mr. Lalit Raicho, more than 40 years of experience working in the industry. He's going to share his story with us. And then next to him is Mark Mascarenas. Mark Mascarenas is a professional footballer. Right now he's playing for the ADE club based in Bangalore, but he's played for several other clubs. He's also represented India, and he's a level 1 FA, level 1 coach. So we'll be hearing his story about football and how he came up in that. And next to him is Ravi Jayakumar. Ravi is a young man, an entrepreneur, running his own business, and he has an amazing story of how he came to where he is today. So he's going to share with us his experience, his journey, and what has brought him to where he is. And finally, we have Naveen Thomas, one of the finest lead guitarists our country has. You see him playing quite often here on Sunday mornings in a part of our worship team. He's part of 4 bands. He's a professional musician. I don't know if that's the right word to call, but he will tell us what it is. But he's a talented musician, and so he's going to tell us what it took for him to become what he is today. Are you all ready? All right, so let's begin. We'll begin with my dad. You're most welcome. Let's put our hands together.
Good evening, friends. I think it's safe to say everyone sitting in this room wants to be successful. Is there anybody here who doesn't want to be successful, who wants to be a failure in life? Nobody. Everybody wants to be successful, isn't it? So tonight I'm going to share a couple of ideas about how to be successful in this life. Most importantly, in God's eyes and also man's. Let me begin by briefly telling you my life story, and then how we can derive some learning from it. I grew up in a middle-class Indian family. Both my parents were educationists and God-fearing people. My mother was a strict disciplinarian, and there was always a strong emphasis on education in our home. My father rose to become the Director of Education for the state of Karnataka some 50 years ago. Both my parents were very diligent. I do believe I acquired my diligence from observing them and listening to my parents' wise instruction and guidance. Before we go any further, let's just make sure we all understand the meaning of the word diligence. What do you mean by diligence? Can somebody in the audience tell me what is diligence? What comes to your mind? Somebody? Can you stand up and say what's diligence? Anybody?
The mic will be passed around, so if you just raise your hand, I'll come to you with the mic.
Nobody wants to say what diligence is? Anybody knows what's diligence? It looks like a foreign word. Anyway, diligence means careful and persistent work or effort. Not giving up, but continuing to be persistent till you have achieved your objective. That's diligence. Hard work, hard effort. Let me give you an example of diligence. Suppose you have a goal of finishing your 12th standard with distinction. To meet this goal, you will first have to have a plan. At the very beginning of the year, you set a goal that I want to get distinction. And to achieve that goal, you have an action plan. You study diligently every day, not at the end of the year, but every day, with full concentration. You practice your exercises and revise your portions at least 6 times before you go for your final examinations. Now this, my friends, is an example of diligence. I believe that this kind of persistent hard work would certainly help you achieve your objective, whatever it may be. Okay, now that we all have some understanding about the definition of the word diligence, I will continue. My dad died of a sudden heart attack when I was 17. This was a terrible shock to me and my family because he was only 50 years old and he died on one of his work trips. A few weeks after my dad's death, I was told that I was selected for a course in mechanical engineering at the University College of Engineering at Bangalore. By the grace of God and my good grades, I was able to get a Government of India merit scholarship. This scholarship covered all the costs of my college education as long as I maintained my grades. This is another instance in my life where God provided for my needs. I worked very hard to keep my grades up and maintain my scholarship. I also took part in many extracurricular activities like athletics, National Cadet Corps, and many church activities while I was studying. This helped me to develop a great deal of self-confidence. After college, I joined the business world as a management trainee in a company called Exxon. It was then the world's largest oil company. Over a career spanning 40 years, I worked with 2 other multinational companies in sales and marketing, operations, that is manufacturing, and general management. My years of work life were very challenging and very demanding. Working 70 to 80 hours a week was normal. Sometimes I would be away from home on business for 3 to 4 weeks at a time. I was responsible for many people in the company and had to make tough decisions that involved the business and my employees' livelihoods. There were many sleepless nights because of the tough business environment and pressure of meeting all kinds of targets and deadlines. But every task that I performed, no matter how small or how large it was done with a complete commitment and diligence. I was not satisfied with a mediocre performance. I was committed to giving it my very best. I also know that we need to give the very best to God in all we do, because everything we do is for God. It's for His glory. As long as we take away focus from ourselves and whatever we do it, it becomes sacred, and we do it for the Lord. He is our King of Kings, and how could we give Him any less? Whatever work may be, when you're studying, you're giving to the Lord. You're doing for His glory. When you're working, if you're a nurse, if you're nursing a patient, you're doing for the glory of God. If you're a teacher, if you're teaching in a class, you're doing for the glory of God. If you're an entrepreneur, you're doing for the glory of God. If you're a footballer, you're playing for the glory of God. That's all. Once you know that, then you'll give it your best. After my formal career of 40 years came to an end, I started a management consulting firm for training senior managers in various organizations. My family and close friends can tell you that even today at this age, I still do everything with diligence and a serious commitment. Including preparing this talk with you, I took so many hours on it. It didn't happen by chance. I thought about it. What am I going to tell these young people? How am I going to inspire them from my life? Now you might be sitting here thinking, well, that's Lalit Raichur. He is a diligent man. But I'm not him. And how can I ever be like him? You might even be saying to yourself, my home life is different. I didn't have educated parents like him. My parents didn't show any diligence, nor will they even understand what is the word diligence. My parents are uneducated. I'm all alone trying to figure this out. I'm getting discouraged. Young people, this quality of diligence is available to anyone who seeks it. Do not get discouraged if your home life or circumstances are different. All you need to do is want it and have the passion for it, that I want to be diligent, and I want to achieve something in life. Once you acquire this passion for diligence, you have the hardest part is over. I promise you, if you make this commitment to diligence, this will be a turning point in your life. Now, let's all agree you have made the commitment that you want to change your life and include diligence as a way of life. This means that everything that you do, whether it's a small task or a big task, you will be diligent. Now, how do I actually do it? How do I do diligence? How do I acquire that? Every change in behavior starts in your mind. It's all up here. Put all negative thoughts away. Replace the negative thoughts with positive ones. I am the king's son or king's daughter. I can do it. Once you have that in your mind, it's there, you have positive thoughts, you can do it. Every habit, it's a habit, even diligence is a habit. Every habit requires concentrated practice. If you practice any habit for 30 consecutive days, it will become part of you. That's all I want, commitment from you. 30 consecutive days. Whether you want to play the guitar, if you play the guitar for 30 days, you will get into it. If you want to study, every day you study for 30 consecutive days, you will get into a habit of studying. For example, reading the Word of God and setting aside a time and place for it and practice diligently in seeking God. This is one habit we can acquire. Start doing it, and I promise it, you will never look back. So practice diligence every day. When the alarm clock rings at 5:30 a.m. in the morning, don't shut it off and turn your back on it. Get up and do the task that you had planned to do. Make getting up at 5:30 a habit. Then it will become a lifelong habit. I started my habit as a young boy and getting up at 4:35 in the morning, and that habit continues with me today, even today. I must have been like Joshua, maybe even younger, 12, 13, and I started the habit of getting up and studying in the morning. I was a morning person. Now some of you are evening people, you can study at night. So decide, know what is your best time for you, your body clock. And according to that, you set the time and the best time you use for studying. Diligence starts with self-discipline. It is the very foundation of diligence. Self-discipline is the foundation of diligence. To me, self-discipline consists of two aspects of life. The first is time management. We are all given 24 hours, 1,440 minutes, and 86,400 seconds in a day. Whether you are the President of India, or a pauper, or a king, or a leader, or whoever it is, we all have the same number of seconds in a day. It is these moments in our lives and how we use them which determines whether we are successful and happy in life. For instance, young people, you can spend endless hours on Facebook, Twitter, and television. You should ask yourself, is this a useful way of spending my time? Now, nothing wrong with spending a little time. So I'm not saying don't spend a little time, yes. But is this the way I want to spend all my time? Is this adding any value to me? You will know what you need to do when you hear the answer from within your conscience. For me, the second aspect of self-discipline is exercising regularly so that I have abundant energy and can give off my very best in everything I do. If you are strong in body and mind, you will become more diligent. One of my personal favorite books from the Bible is the book of Proverbs. This book emphasizes that apart from wisdom, a person has to be diligent to be successful in life. It tells us to learn from the lowly ant the practice of diligence and how to work unceasingly and store up provisions for a rainy day. Friends, in conclusion, I would like to say that for a successful and happy life, you have to be self-disciplined, Discover a passion in your life. Pursue this passion with diligence. Don't give up even when the going gets tough. And even more importantly, seek to serve God and your fellow human beings as your main goal in life. Thank you.
Good evening. I didn't hear you all. I mean, it takes some hard work to say good evening. Good evening. Okay. Just to introduce myself, my name's Mark Mascarenas, and I'm a professional football player, and I double up as a professional coach as well. I played for various clubs all over India, and I've represented the country as well. Honestly speaking, I mean, I was not a hard worker. Okay, I was hardly working. Okay, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because of the culture. Many Indians want to get into government jobs because you know the culture in government jobs. They don't work hard. Okay, but I just, when I encountered God, He totally changed my outlook on life. He told me that hard work is not a way, it is the way. And I thought about it. I thought about it really, really hard. And through His grace, I started really, really working hard. And because of that, I got an opportunity to play for various clubs all over India and also the country as well. But actually speaking, what is hard work? I mean, can any of you all tell me what exactly is hard work? Nobody knows what's hard work. No answers? Okay. I mean, in my opinion, hard work is when you sincerely put in all your efforts at a certain task and leave the rest to God. Hard work involves 4 factors: quantity, quality, persistence, and discipline. Okay. What are the benefits of hard work? The benefits of hard work is there's an immense sense of satisfaction that can never be compared to anything else in this world. When you really, really work hard, you really know the benefits, that immense satisfaction you get in your heart, which says, yes, I have performed well, and I've given everything for the glory of God. In ending, I mean, I've been short and sweet. I left professional football in 2006 because of a wrist injury. And honestly speaking, I never thought I would get back to professional football. Okay, I just kept praying, but I never stopped practicing. I continued to practice and practice and practice. I never found any club for 5 years. 2006 was my last professional club. 5 years, I never found any club, but I didn't stop. I didn't stop at my passion. I continued, and not only I continued, but I also prayed to God as well. I mean, hard work and God comes hand in hand. And in 2011, when I came down to Bangalore, I got an opportunity to play for a professional club called Aeronautical Development Establishment. I played for a local tournament in Bangalore, and you won't believe, I took this same team to the final. And it is only because of God's grace. I could say hard work would be around 60 to 70%, but 30% I would say that God really, really inspired me to perform well. And I could not believe, for 5 years I was without a club, but I never gave up. I never gave up. I just continued, and I said, God, if you're going to make me play football, I am going to play football. And in 2011, God opened up a door, and I'm playing professional football right here. Okay, so my advice to young people is never ever give up, no matter what. Okay, remember that Christ is a person who is always with you. He'll never let you down. He will never leave you, nor will He forsake you. And many people say never give up, but I would say never give up, no matter what. Thank you.
Well, I've never done this before, so it's kind of emotional for me. A disclaimer before I go ahead, it's that whatever I'm going to tell you, it does not mean that I don't love my parents. I love them more, my foster parents basically. I love them more now than I ever loved them before during my childhood. To start up, I was actually given up, me, my twin sister, and my elder sister, we were given up when we were 6 months. I was 6 months old. My twin sister was 6 months old. And my elder sister, she was 2 years, I think, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so we were given up. We were actually left at a hospital post-Kolar. I can't remember the hospital's name now. So the nurse who was working there knew about the home that I grew up with. So she said, okay, why don't you go to this place? I know them pretty well. It's a Christian organization, and children are treated like their own children and not like an orphanage. So I was brought in there, and that's what I remember. I don't have much memories of my younger days because of my malnourishment. I couldn't even walk properly till the age of 7, beginning of 7 to be precise. I was kind of a lump of meat. If I sit down somewhere, I couldn't walk. However, growing up as a child, we were like 30 boys, and I just didn't understand how can a family have 30 children, you know? It's crazy. Even today when I tell I've got 100 brothers and 100 sisters, people think, are you from this world, you know? But that is the way we were brought up. The culture was of a family, and the core ethics on a biblical foundation. My parents were missionaries who came to India in 1957, and that's when the home was established, and they're still here taking care, and we still have at this time 33 girls and 27 boys. So growing up, it was like a battle that I had to fight every day, because one side I realized when I was in 5th standard that this is not my parents. And I realized that the people around me are not my biological brothers or biological sisters. And it was that time I just couldn't understand what was life all about. And it basically, I figured it out because every year, once in a year, the boys' home is separate and the girls' home is separate. So the girls would come over to the boys' home, and from there we would go up to Ooty for a holiday because a guest house was up in Ooty. And my sister came and sat next to me, and I didn't understand what a girl meant or who's a girl, you know, because we were like only boys in our home. So I told my parents, why is this funny person troubling me, because she's got long hair. And she said, my mom said, that's your sister. What do you mean by a sister? And I said, I mean, what do you mean by a sister? And then my twin sister sitting next to me, I was like, so what is she? She's my twin sister. What do you mean by a twin sister? That means she was born with you. I was like, what do you mean? You know, that is how dumb I was, to be honest with you. And I didn't realize what family meant or what the relationships meant. And that's when I kind of realized that this is my family and this is the extended family. So that's when I kind of got rebellious growing up, and I was quite a notorious person, and nobody could contain me in my house. And I was like in a regular battle every day. I was like, because we had 6 of my brothers who had either a father or a mother, and they would go for a holiday and they come back with loads of gifts. I was like, how can they get gifts and how can they go out for a holiday and we still have to stay here? You know, then they have parents. I was like, okay, what is life outside this fence? Because we were never allowed to go out except for school, because if you jump from my left, it's primary, and if you jump straight, it's middle school, school, and if you jump to your right, it's high school. So the maximum that you would walk is a kilometer outside, and you're back in. You don't actually know as to what the real world outside world is. All that we knew was 7 in the morning breakfast, 10 in the morning second breakfast, 1 o'clock in the afternoon lunch, 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock is your tea time, 7 o'clock is your dinner, off you go to bed. That's how meticulous our life was. So I became so angry with myself, and I was like, why am I here? Why is my life so like this? And I became so bad. I was so abusive till I finished my 10th. I could not speak one sentence without a filthy word in my mouth. And every time my dad looked at me, he would say, Ravi, we can't take it if you get out of the house. Leave the house. You've been a bad testimony for everybody. And every time, and I was like, I like, okay, if you are my dad, why you want me to leave the house? It just didn't hit my head at that time. And then somehow scraped through primary school and middle school. And in Bangalore, the education system is way different. And when you grow up and study in a rural area, the education system is completely different. We were the only aliens from our family who even knew how to speak in English or sing in English in the whole village. So people would think that we are a different kind of people. And even in our school, middle school, teachers wrote off saying, okay, Ravi, you're good for nothing. You can't become anything in life, because I was really, really bad in its studies, and maths and science, something would never go through my head. And somehow we got through 7th standard, and I was in high school, and Mark is here. He can tell you when you love football what happens. So since we were the main, in our home, one thing Dad taught us, he was a professional ice hockey person from Canada. So he was a serious, he meant business when he meant sports. So he taught us all kind of sports, and till today I can play 14 sports, and I can challenge anybody at this time as well. So we were like professionals in football. When we played football, we meant football, and it was like American football. It was like really dirty and real hard football. So even in our college, in high school, so we were like 6 boys. So we were half of the football team for the school. So in the morning we give attendance and then go out to play football. Come in the afternoon, give attendance and go out. Exam comes, they pass you because you are representing the school in football. So 8th, 9th. I passed, and I didn't know, I still don't know how to write my name in Hindi, because we never had Hindi teachers till I was in 8th standard. So they tried teaching us Hindi at that time. I still can't understand. I've never learnt it. And the turning point was when I was in 10th standard, because I was kind of a rogue in the class as well, because I was playing good football. We came to the level of representing our village in state level as well. We used to represent in even Dasara games. So we were pretty popular. So at the back, we would always sit and create nuisance in the class. And so the English teacher, she got really frustrated with me. And asked me to stand up, and she asked me like 25 questions, and in English, by the way. So I answered all the questions. She was like, I still don't understand. You're such a good student. Why are you throwing your life away? Because I grew up in a system that out of the 80 or 90 people who had grown up and gone from the home, one person had passed the bachelor's, and one person had become doctor. Rest of everybody were living on manual labor, which means either they were middle school dropout, or primary school dropout, or high school dropout. Nobody had passed 10th. So for me, my life was in the dairy farm, because we had a dairy farm, and I loved animals, and I I was doing my best in that. So I thought my life was there, and I would do whatever. I would find excuses not to go to school, trying to figure out work to be done in the dairy farm, and that's what in my head, that's what life was all about, because 5 meals are covered. I never seen money because everything is taken care. All right, so there's nothing to break your head in life, and we still have people who are like 55 years old in our house. I was like, okay, you just get out of school, you work in the farm, and that's where life ends. So for me, that's when 8th and 9th is when I had to really, it was a battle, and then I had to really decide. And my brother had come down from Canada, and he was like, you're good at doing something, so focus on it and try to work hard. You have a choice to make, and that was when I was in 8th standard. You have a choice to make. There is 80 plus people who have grown out of this home, and they are living as manual laborers. You have a choice to decide, work hard, educate yourself, study hard, and then become something else in life. All right? That still didn't get into my head because I was too strong person to accept all of that. However, so 8th and 9th was just getting by, and the 10th came in, and October got over, so the midterm exams are over and the final exams are up. And that's when I had to really sit and decide if I had to make something out of my life, or if I'm going to be just like any other person. And that's when I actually started studying and took it seriously, and I started studying hard, which I've never done in my whole life. And apparently out of 343 students who appeared for that exam on the 10th, all right, by the way, I copied in my Hindi exam, but still, we were the 18th, I was the 18th person who actually passed the 10th. And the whole village was kind of shocked, thinking that how did Ravi, above everybody, pass? I mean, he didn't study, he never studied, and how did he pass? So, but that's how I got through 10th. But then after that, I had to make a decision that my life had to change, and I had to do something different. All right. But during my growing up, one thing that I was really particular about is that if there was something new to be done, I would be the first person to run and do that work. All right. You'll be surprised to know that my dad's ideology was, tomorrow if there's a world war, because he's from the Second World War, his forefathers migrated from Germany to Canada during the Second World War. So they had to, my dad's dad, he had to go to the fields to steal potatoes to survive. That's the kind of a background that he has come from. So his ideology was that tomorrow, if you're on your own in the world, whatever you do, you should be able to survive. So be it as a mechanic, be it as a person working with a cement or dairy farming or plowing the field, you name it, you should know how to do it. So that meant I did all of that work, all right? So be it whatever it is, I was an expert bicycle mechanic. I can rip the bicycle apart and put it together within 30 minutes, even today. And I was very good in my dairy farming, so I wanted to become a veterinarian doctor, which never happened because I never studied. But the local vet got so upset with me because I would do everything. He knew how to do it, all right? You name it, and I knew how to do the work, but I was not educated enough. And I, in fact, was offered a government job when I was in 8th standard in a veterinarian hospital, because that's how advanced training that I had received from my brother who had come from Canada at that time. So it was a challenge. So I just finished 10th, and our home policy is that if you have to go to college, you have to prove yourself by working 1 year at home. So I took it up as a challenge. So I had to go and work on the farm. I used to plow the fields to grow grass for the cows, and at the same time I had to, we had 40 cows, and I used to take care of the cows. And I said, okay, I need to make money out of it. And I never knew that it's going to come 10 years or 15 years later on as of today. So I started saying, okay, how can I be enterprising at this age? So I would wake up at 3 in the morning, 3:30 start milking the cow, finish at 5 o'clock. That would mean approximately 70 to 80 liters of milk I had to milk. because no other boy would wake up so early to help me. So I said, okay, if you don't want to get up, fine, I can milk the cows myself. It was literally a hard work. Trust me, it was at 3 in the morning and 4 in the morning to 6 in the morning, milk the cows, run to the village, sell 50 liters door to door, or go to a hotel and sell it and come back. And the first month that I did it, I generated 1.3 lakh revenue at that time, which I did not understand what was 1 lakh, but I only saw in the books that I had made 1,30,000, and the cost of doing it was 60,000, and 80,000 was the profit. I still didn't understand at that time what is the profit and what is the cost. But I only realized I got 300 rupees as my pocket money, and that was my incentive for doing it. So in the current terminology of world. However, so I was good at it, and since I was so good at it, I went to study further in dairy farming, poultry farming, as well as piggery. I have professional diploma certificates in that as well. So then 1 year was over, I had to get back to college, and I went and asked Dad, I want to take up science because I want to become a doctor. He said, what's your maths score in 10th? 35. Sorry, you can't study maths. You can't become a doctor. And what is your score in science? 36. So sorry, you can't become a doctor. So then I had to choose to, the reason as to why we asked for a science was so I can travel outside our town. He said no, so now the college is just across the fence now, so again 2 more years stuck here in the village, you can't go anywhere else. So but I decided that I'm going to take my life serious after that, because that 1 year taught me a lot of things. Plus I went and studied the book of Proverbs. Every time I spoke a bad word, the punishment was I had to do imposition, or whatever you call it as. You have to go and find 25 verses which talks about speaking bad words. All right, if you were lazy, you are supposed to find 25 verses in the Bible which talks about being diligent in life and working hard. So that took grip on me, and then I immediately smartened up, and life changed around, because book of Proverbs is even today something that I tell Miriam that we should go through now and then, which we do it. However, during the college time, I said, okay, I have to take my life seriously, and no more copying this time. I have to pass it without copying. That's what my agenda was. However, the first semester I scored 93%, which was the highest that I've ever scored, and even the college was like surprised and impressed. However, I got through first and second PUC with high colors. I passed out in high first class. This is where the real life story starts, but I don't think I have much time, so I will quickly run through it. But as soon as I finished my second PUC, I wanted to go to college, and again I went back and asked my dad, can I go to Bible college? He said, no, that's not meant for you. He felt bad when I said that last time. He didn't realize that he said no to me. And then I said, okay, I have to go to college, and I didn't want to go back to a college again in my village, because I knew if I studied there, I'm not going to make it in life. Because I've seen a lot of people who have studied, and I wanted to come to Bangalore. I've never been to Bangalore in the past, except for once in 1996 I had visited Bangalore. So then I asked my parents, they were busy, so they didn't take any initiative. I asked my home parents, they were not taking any initiative in terms of taking the applications or whatever that was. So I had a friend of mine in Bangalore. I called him up and said, okay, here's the deal. I need to get a college intake. Can you help me out with that? He went. I told him evening college, because I can't afford it. I have to work and study, so get me some evening college. But as an expert, he went again and bought an application in the day college. And I had visited Bangalore for the first time on my own without anybody's support, because that never happens in a house. For everything, you have somebody guiding you, all right? And so I had to come to Bangalore, and I did not know what Shivaji Nagar meant or what it was. I got on in Shivaji Nagar, came to college here, and my friend met me here. He gave me the application, and I went for the fees. I think it was 17,000, and I said, I can't pay that. And either I wanted day college, I wanted to go to the evening college so I can work in the day, study in the evening. So So the next day, it is very heroic. I went back to the day college, which is the next building here. I asked them, can you give back the money so I can at least buy an application, because I don't have money. And they said, no, you can't do it. Stand at the gate and sell it to somebody else. And I literally stood at the gate for more than 2 hours begging people to buy my application so I can take that money and buy an application in the evening college to get my admission done. It never happened. So 2 days I went back home and I was like rejected. I was like so upset. My 21st birthday, and I was like, you know, where is life going towards to? And nobody's helping me out in this area. So again, came back and I borrowed some 150 rupees, if I'm not wrong. Came back to Bangalore. I got into Majestic. I told them to drop me off in Residency Road, but he dropped me off in NGF. And trust me, that is when I really, I didn't know Bangalore roads, by the way. So I had to walk all the way from NGF to this same college that we're talking right now. And I don't know, I hadn't eaten the whole day, but I walked, asking people as to where the college is. So I went to RBMNS, and I came here, I bought the application, and I was the first guy to get the admission as well. The principal asked me, why do you want to join in the evening college? I said, well, I have to work, you know, so I don't have any money to pay and go to the day college. So I got an admission, the same block behind this building, evening college, and that's how I moved into Bangalore after that. And I left home with nothing, because when you're leaving home, you're like a prodigal son leaving the land of Canaan, of milk and honey flowing. You're leaving that, you're going into the wilderness type. That's what the explanation was in our house. So when you left with nothing. That means I had no pocket money, because our pocket money was 2 rupees. And with that 2 rupees, you were supposed to buy all your pens for the whole year. You would get 1 pen and 1 pencil. So that's how difficult life was, because we were brought up with discipline and of course a rod, you know. However, so I came to Bangalore. Now I need to find a job, which was the difficult part. So I couldn't find any job, and then my friend said, okay, there's a job as an attender in the college. Why don't you look at it? I said, okay, fine. If that's what's going to give me food, I'm going to do that. So with the same college that I studied in the evening, St. Joseph's, I was also the attender of that college. And you know what it means to sweep classrooms in front of your own classmates, in front of girls especially. However, you know, so I worked like that for 10 months, and it was really, really difficult. But however, I had still not paid the college fees, because I don't have the money to pay for it. And I was in the physics lab and as a lab assistant. So the HOD came and said, you don't look like an uneducated person. You've got excellent English. You're studying. Why are you working as an attender? I said, I need to earn some money, and I have to pay my college fees, and I don't have money to pay for it. So if that means I have to sweep the classrooms, then might as well I have to do it. You know, I don't have an option, neither do I have a choice to do it. So I took that up. So he was still not convinced. He said something is wrong. When I told him the home that I grew up in, how I came to Bangalore, what's happening in life, then he said, okay, fine. So the whole physics department got together, raised enough money that would pay my college fees and pay for my bus pass as well. And I was just praying. I said, like, Lord, I know for a fact that in your word, you say that if you can feed the birds in the air, you would feed me as well. And I know, and I'm only trusting in you, because I don't have any other place to go. And I was staying at my brother's house. I said, okay, I have a few days to stay there. You have to help me out. You have to get me the admission done. And I want to study, and I'm not going to give up no matter what that meant. So when this provision came, it was like God's answering my prayer. For the first year, fees was paid in full by the physics department. And I got through and I was pretty serious with my work. So I would start work at 9, end at 5, college till 9, go back home and come back. So after I quit that job, I wanted to educate myself furthermore. So I took up the computer courses. So I would go to my computer classes at 6 in the morning till 9, and work from 9 to 5, and go to college from 5 to 9, go back home at 10, 10:30, cook, eat, wash my clothes, sleep at around 12:31, get up at 4:30, get back to my life. That's how my life was for the 10 months when I was in my first year. And I got through with flying colors with that as well. And second year started, and I had to leave the job here and got into another job, had to leave that as well, and I got my first corporate job in Airtel, which is for a contract job as a marketing assistant for 6 months. However, I did not know what a computer was. However, I learned a little bit about it. So they hired me for 6 months, but I finished that job within 3 weeks. So the manager said, I said, what can I do next? They said, you don't have any more job left to do. I said, why? Because you were hired to do this job for 6 months. I said, well, I finished it in 3 weeks. Why can't you give me more work? They said, no, we don't have any work to do, so we may have to let you go. So I felt so bad. I said, like, okay, I'm hardworking, all right? I finished the work well in advance, all right? And you're saying that I don't have a job after that. And that's when the real life test began, because for me at that time, I had a choice to quit or to go back home. And if I went back home, I knew how I would be treated, like a prodigal son. Coming back home, that means not like in the biblical way, but it is the opposite. So I didn't want to face that life there. I said, okay, I'm going to grind my way through this, and I'm going to survive whatever it took place. That's when I went that time the call centers was the biggest place that you could get a job. And I went to 43 call centers for an interview every day, day after day, day after day. The only thing that they said, you're excellent in your English, we can't hire you because you're not a graduate. I said, well, try and do something for me. I said, I need a job, I need to work somewhere. And that's when I joined Health Scribe, a medical transcription. As I told you, I hate science. If you have to become a medical transcriptionist, as all of you nurses sitting here, you know how difficult the science is. And I just couldn't get through it. And after 2 months, I had to give up, and I had to start my searching for a job again. And I still remember 24/7 was where half of my church, I used to go to BBC, who worked, like there was 18 people who used to work in 24/7. So I went there constantly 17 times. And every time, either in the first round, second round, third round, I would get rejected. But on the 15th time that I went for the interview, the HR asked, how long are you going to come here? How many times are you going to come and waste your time here? I said, I'm going to come here as long as it's going to take, as long as I'm going to get my job. You're going to see me every month here, because you cannot apply for a job. If you applied, you have to wait for 30 days or 25 days. I think Benny knows that. 15 days, I think, was the policy. So every 15 days, I would go back for the first interview, because all the other places would not accept if you're not a graduate, but 24/7 would do. So I told the HR, I said, till you give me a job, you're going to see my face. You like it or you don't like it. And I went to that same place for interview 17th time. 17th time I got my job there. But before that, a lot of other things had happened as well, because this is the time I was living on the minimum, because I did not have any money as such. And living in Bangalore, it's not so cheap as well. But I lived for more than 8 months on a daily food. I would spend not more than 6 rupees was my daily food expenses. And even if I look at it today, how God has blessed me, it's so difficult to really fathom that as well. And as I said, medical transcription in the morning, all right? So I would go to medical transcription from 6 in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I found another small call center to work, which never paid me after 3 months. Worked there 2 to 5, college 5 to 9. Again, I went to another call center, worked there for 3 hours, and who finally paid me 1,000 rupees end of 2 months. And because they were a smaller company, they were not paying me properly. But I still remember very clearly, July 23rd was the day that I had to choose to give up or to go on, because that is the day that I was left with 10 rupees in my pocket. And since I was doing this circus of working for more than 20 hours and sleeping 2 to 3 hours, I felt really, really, really sick. And the previous day, I didn't even have money to buy food, so I went and bought rice for 3 rupees. I still remember that. And I was so sick that they said, you can't eat any outside food, you have to make ganji and eat. And I didn't even have vessels to cook. But on that night, I had to cook. I had a small pot and an electric stove, and the only thing that I had to mix it was my toothbrush. So that's how I made the food, and I ate that night. And I was like, Lord, I can't take this anymore, because I was fighting for life because I didn't even have money to eat food. There was days I would take a sleeping tablet and sleep on Friday evening after my college, wake up on Monday morning so I can save money for those 3 days and eat food for the next week. That's how bad the condition was. But I said, whatever the situation is, I'm going to fight it. I'm going to work hard. No matter what's going to happen, I'm not going to give up my studies. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do whatever it's going to take. That's when I met my sister after 5 years, and she was in a good job in Bangalore, and she said, okay, she's going to take care of me. But still, I never had a breakthrough that God wanted me to have, because God's word says that, we have a life of abundance. All right. So that's when, I had to choose to forgive my family, because I was living with bitterness. So whatever the hard work that I did, however hard I tried, I could never come up because of my unforgiveness with my parents. So I forgave my parents and I got my job. Life is a history after that, because today, working really hard, I got into other jobs as well. I opened my company in 2005, and which went under a massive loss. We had 130 people working just down this Brigade Road itself. And again, I had a choice to give up, but I said, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to work hard, because God spoke to me through another pastor saying, the door is open, walk through it by faith, and be diligent and hardworking. And that word still ring in my ears a lot, because today I'm running a company. I have 40 people reporting to me. It's not easy to be a Christian and a businessman. There's a lot of temptations, a lot of issues people try to create for you in the kind of a business that I'm in. However, whatever the difficult tasks are, all right, even though the first company went under a massive loss, I said I'm not going to ever get into business again. But my friends again said, okay, no, you have it, what it takes in you to come up in life again, to work hard. All right. So that's when I restarted the company in 2006, and today we are a 6-year-old company, and I've got 40, as I said, 40 people working, and we are growing step by step. Yes, we have been hit a couple of times. We have lost a lot of money, but now I said there's no looking back. And the only thing that I can tell you, as I've taken longer of time, I can't speak much more. But one thing I can tell you right now, I've sometimes felt that I walked through the valley of shadow of death, and sometimes I struggled. I can't explain it, but one thing I always remembered, that I held on to the promises of God, and every time that I had a question, Psalm 121, I look up to the hills, where does my help come from? And I would always pray, Lord, you gave me this promise. Even last year, we lost a lot of money and we got into a lot of problems. And I only prayed and said, Lord, you got me into this business. I never wanted to get into business. I wanted a stable job. You got me into this business, and you have to solve this problem. Even though I did not intentionally do it, or even if I did it, I need your help to get out of it and come out successfully. And I said, I'm going to do whatever it's going to take to work hard and come out of it. So that's been the history. That's been my life story as well. So for 5 years, every day going to college, every day working full time, but still I got through my master's as well. I completed my master's in high first class, and I got through my bachelor's in high first class. It was all because of hard work, because when you're working full time, there's no time for you to study, because work is your priority. So but still I never gave up. So what I want to encourage all of you here, there's a lot of youth here, and I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, but the only thing that I can tell you, be it in the corporate world, be it in a family, or be it in a home, be it in you just being in your high school, there is no free lunch, there is no free get by. If you need to achieve something, you need to work hard. And when you're working hard, does not mean even donkeys work hard, all right, but they don't achieve what they want to achieve. But you need to be diligent in what you do. All right, that's what's going to take you places. And I'll stop here. All right. So thank you so much.
Okay. I really without a guitar up on stage, it feels very lonely. And it's really crazy, but I'm really glad to be here. I'm really blessed to be here and be able to share something. But first of all, I was really inspired and encouraged by what Ravi shared today. And sometimes I think we all take a lot for granted, and we take a lot of our blessings for granted, and we say, what are we really going to do with our lives? And I think it's just encouraged me phenomenally. I think music is, like, everybody wants to play music, and everyone thinks playing music is very, very cool, and it's a lot of fun. And if I'm talking too fast, somebody just slow me down. I kind of just rattle on. But everyone thinks that playing music's a lot of fun, and everyone gets taken up by the glitz and glamour of playing music up on stage, and everyone says it's the most funky thing to do is go up on stage and play, and everyone says wow. But there's so much more to music than just getting up on stage and playing. My grandparents kind of brought me up, and they had this cool thing that we'd like the grandson of ours to learn a little bit of music. And they learned, quite shockingly, the grandson had no musical streak. And very soon, I was very aptly named the little donkey of the family. And I think if my mom was here right now, she'd be like, cringe. But I was the one person in the family who had no musical bone. And my grandparents decided, let's try and make sure he can play some music. We'll get him a guitar. So I think in my 6th grade, they got me a guitar. They saved up a little bit of money, and they picked up this guitar for me. And they got somebody from church to come and teach me a little bit of guitar. So that kind gentleman taught me guitar for a month, and then promptly retreated because he realized what a waste of time that was. And I realized, okay, the guitar is really good. My grandparents don't allow me to go out and play and do all that stuff that I'd like to do. They want me to play guitar, and the guitar teachers run away. I can make that guitar into a really good cricket bat. And my first guitar became my cricket bat. But I think it was really weird. But I think in my 9th grade, I really liked listening to music. Like my family, like my mom loves music. People in my family love music. They keep playing music all the time. And I started liking music, but the second I opened my mouth, everyone ran away. So I could never figure out why people were running away. And I just couldn't hold a tune to save my life. That's the reason why I never sing. So, but I think it was just really amazing because I wanted to, okay, if you're a Mallu, you really understand this. If you want to play music, they'll say, music, that is for hotel. What are you going to play? Something that people are going to play in the hotels. Go be a doctor, be an engineer, be a pilot. That's what you're talking about, not like music. But I think the cool thing was I got inspired to play music. I think in my 9th grade, 10th grade, still never had a guitar. My guitar, since I used it as a cricket bat, didn't have too much future as a guitar after that. So my guitar I never had a guitar to play. And then I said, okay, guitar doesn't work. I need to have a guitar to play on, to be able to play. I said, let me play the drums. That seems like really cool. I needed 2 sticks, some cushions, and I could become a drummer. And much to my grandparents' dismay, I decided to make a lot of noise at home on tins and saucepans and all that when I was much younger. And, well, my family was like, oh man, this guy can't even sing, and then he chooses the most noisy instrument in the world. But and I really had a really strong desire to play music because I said, I think I really love music and I really want to play. And my mom decided it's really smart, like, you know how all mothers are. They know how to just like get the result from your carrot and stick treatment. So she's like, if you do well in your studies, then you could probably do a little bit of guitar. So, and I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to go through Hindi. I can understand with Ravi and Hindi because I used to read an English guide for Hindi. I used to read the entire story in English and then go and say, God, please help me make some grammatical sense. And I hope the teacher doesn't read beyond the second line. But it was just awful. And I really wanted to play music. And a lot of friends of mine was playing music around me. And I never had any training. So I was trying to teach myself how to play. And fortunately for me, I got to meet some really nice people on the way who were kind enough to look at me when they played the guitar or show me some a little trick on the drums at that point of time. But I never really I always wanted to have somebody to really teach me, because I really thought, unless somebody is there to really teach me, I'm really not going to go very far. And I think reality struck in my 11th grade when I realized there's just going to be nobody there to teach me, and I had to just figure out whether I wanted to play music. And my career, of course, I had to follow my studies really, really strongly. So, Mallu boy, no, not doing your studies is absolute no. So, I made sure the studies were still happening on par. And I think I finished my 12th, and I went through this really crazy year where my results that came from Bangalore University came in late, and I'd missed the deadlines for some of the colleges that happened. And my mom was like, why don't we go try MCC Madras? It's this college where I think my granddad's brothers and my uncles have studied there. So he's like, why don't you go try Madras? And I'm like, Madras? That place is just like, I've never gone to Madras before, but I've heard horror stories of Madras. And, well, we went to Madras, and awesome college. I walked into MCC and fell in love with the place. And I came back and said, I want to go study there. And, well, I couldn't apply that year, so I had to apply the year after. And I was going through this I had this little argument with, this little tiff that I was having with God, saying that, God, I'd like to do music. I need to have a career. How do I really do this? And the funny thing is that one year I got involved with working with Youth for Christ, which is a little missions organization, and I started playing acoustic guitar for the first time in my life. Never my acoustic guitar, somebody else's, which I was borrowed promptly for that little while. And I used to borrow guitars for the longest time. And I think at a certain point it really stung as well, because I was always borrowing guitars. I had to try and tell a friend, can I just borrow a guitar for 2-3 days? I want to try and learn something, then I give it back to you. But that first year, I really struggled to learn a few chords. But I was just so blessed because I got to play with a bunch of really good singers and musicians, because they just needed somebody to hold 2 chords and just strum furiously. So I could strum furiously. So they said, you're a good guitar player. So I think I landed up playing guitar that way. It was really, really strange. And, well, most people didn't think too much of it. I was really not much of a musician. And I think the beauty of what happened those years, it really set me up to what happened when I went into college. Because when I went into college, the college band also wanted somebody who could strum furiously. So I was the only first year who ever got into the college band because I could strum 3 chords furiously. And I said, and I was really trying to learn. I never had anybody to show me. I think guitar was this well-guarded secret by most people. And they're like, I know a little bit. I'll show you 1 chord. That's it. Let's see if you can learn something else beyond that. And I really wanted to learn, never got a chance to. But in college, I got to play with the college band, which was doing really well. And I had to borrow guitars from friends to go back and practice. And across 3 years, I learned a good amount of guitar playing. And the funny thing was, at the end of my first year in college, I had one of my really close friends. He was a senior of mine. He came up to me and said, Naveen, you're really fortunate that these guys are senior to you and you have taken you in the team. But this is their final year and their postgrad. And you're your first year undergrad. So they're going to get out of college next year. And your musical dreams are going to go up in smoke. And I said, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to work on my guitar playing. And he said, Naveen, I'm telling you again, you don't have much scope as a musician, and I think you just need to quit and just concentrate on your studies. And that's what really, and my mom, yes, is like, yeah, concentrate on your studies only, nothing else. And what I liked about college, and I think God puts you in situations which make the biggest difference in your life, is I got put in MCC, which believed in addition to doing well in your studies, you need to do well in your extracurriculars, you need to really become a well-rounded human being. And I remember going back and saying, God, how am I going to really play it? How am I going to do my music? How am I going to do my studies and do everything that I'm doing and really make a difference? And I could never see the sense of it at that point of time. I got out of college and I came back to Bangalore, and I still had my band had a reputation. I kind of piggybacked off it. And I was always learning, and I think the one thing that everybody in my band kept saying was, this is the one guy, you teach him half, he's already looked at you and he's already figured out the other half of what you're really trying to teach. Because for me, I really believed that in order to be able to do well in whatever I was doing, I really needed to work hard on understanding how it works. When somebody tells me something, I do not really take it at face value. I go back and I try and understand why that person said it. So I play music now professionally, and I've never done any formal training. And I don't read music, but I understand music theory by what I've taught myself over these years. And it was quite a shocker 2 years ago when I sat with this keyboardist of mine who really knows music, and I exchanged notes and I realized my music theory was actual music theory. And it was so shocking because I used to go back and look at the chords and say, why does it work this way? There has to be some reason why it makes sense. Well, I'll get into that, the cooler part of what happened with the music. This is like the dirty part, just all the work, nobody really recognizes you. They all think you're just doing nothing with your life. I came back from college, I came back to Bangalore, and I think for 1 year I was trying to figure out, can I do something what do I really like to do? My mom said, go find a job. So I said, okay, just to keep her quiet, I went and got a job. I gave her that one day, got a job, came back, gave the appointment letter to her and said, I'm not taking that job because that's not what I really want to do. And I said, because I think I've always strived my entire life to figure out, God, what do you want from me and my life where I'm going to make a difference in the lives of people around me? I think a lot of us, we all go through life almost on like robots. I think we really go through life going from day 1 to day 2 without really, it's a routine. We don't really wonder and say, how do I make a difference in the life of somebody today? God, how am I going to make the difference in the life of my maid who comes home today? How do I make the difference in the life of the auto driver I travel with today? We just so worried about that's been my constant worry. And I said, God, I want to make a difference in what I do. And out of nowhere, I came into Bangalore. Nobody in Bangalore knows I play music. And I had some amazing opportunities just come my way. And I believe God really, really brought it up. Because nobody really knew me. And music is very clannish. If you're part of the music fraternity, you understand you have to be a part of a certain clique for anything to work. And I haven't ever been a part of any clique. And I remember keeping on working on my music, on different aspects of my music. And the funny thing was, I thought, is this going to go on? I said, okay, I'm not going to really do music. I'm going to concentrate on my corporate job. And I got into Levi's in 2006. I was heading consumer marketing at Levi's for about 3 years. And I had a chat with my country head on day 1. And he said, Naveen, I know you like to do music. It's written all over you. But you need to understand you will never be able to do music once you join work. And I said, okay, that must be something that I will have to deal with if that happens, but I'm going to try and see if I can actually juggle the two. And I don't know how I did this, and I think it's all God's grace. Is at the end of my first year, I was the employee that received the highest increment, and I still did 4 gigs a month. And my country head came and said, I'll take that back. And he says, you can do your music. And they allowed me to, this is Levi's, okay? They allowed me to take off to do my gigs wherever I went. So when traveling to do my gigs, they say, fine, you're going to do your music, go ahead and do your music. And they made music a part of my portfolio in marketing as well. But again, where can the music go? And I was saying, okay, God, I think, okay, nobody really knows this, but I think my first guitar happened after 6 years of playing. I managed to save some money and buy my first guitar after 6 years of playing. And it was those 6 years were really hard. I remember coming back home and locking myself in my room and saying, God, I really want to play music, but I can't afford to buy a guitar. And I think I'm also quite a dissatisfied person with what I get sometimes. So I said, God, I got a good second-hand guitar, and I said, I need like a brand new guitar. And I never got a brand new guitar for a very long time. And I said, God, I still want a brand new guitar. And let me give you a story. I still don't have a brand new guitar, by the way. But the funny thing is, in 2008, I played a concert in Dubai. It was called the Desert Rock Festival. We headlined the festival with Korn, Muse, Velvet Revolver, As I Lay Dying, Killswitch Engage, Incubus, like a whole bunch of bands. We headlined it with them. And we were among the first bands to do that. Came back to India. And my manager for we all try to have managers, very cool, okay, to handle the band. And my manager comes and tells me, Naveen, can I give you a little heart attack? And I said, yes. And he says, you've heard of Gibson guitars? And I said, yes. And he said, Gibson Guitars want you to sign on to them as an endorser for the country. People in the US give an arm and a leg to be an endorser for Gibson Guitars. It got handed to me on a plate. And I looked at it and said, God, can't be real. So I looked at it and said, okay, what are you going to give me? You'll give me one like really, really cheap Epiphone guitar. Fine. It's a free guitar. It'll be my first brand new guitar. But I'm going to take that. And the person who heads Gibson in India says, I've sent a guitar for you. I think it'll work for you. I think it's just for you. And the guitar reached me in my office. And I pulled it out and I almost fainted. And it was well, I think if I sell all my guitars and everything I have, I still can't afford that guitar. It's just ridiculously expensive. I don't know why it's that expensive. That's a different thing. But it's just so expensive. And I looked at it and said, God, I think it was like a couple of weeks before I said, God, I still want a brand new guitar. Just, why don't you give me a brand new guitar? And I sit with the guitar, which is among the most expensive guitars in the world, and it's mine. Then I said, and I said, God, fantastic stuff. I was still working. And there was a certain time where God really told me that I want you to go out and do music. And it was a really hard choice to make, because I was sitting at a very nice, comfortable, routine marketing job at Levi's, and God saying, go do music. That's all my relatives need to hear. Like, that's all my mom wants to hear. But I think God really worked in the hearts of I won't say family, I think my immediate family. Because when I stepped out and told my mom, I think I'm going to quit my Levi's job because I think God's calling me to do music. And music, not in the regular sense of music. I'm not going to I'm not really playing in church, but I play music out, and I play music all across the country. I said, but I really believe that's my calling. And she was like, okay. And I said, okay, I think you must be sleepy. Let me just come back and tell you that again later tomorrow. But it was just amazing because I got to step out and do music. And I stepped out, and the first year was really hard because not too many projects came in, and I was barely scraping by. And after you have after you have corporate salary coming into your bank account, you have no salary, nothing coming into your bank account. 6 months later, you're scratching your head and say, okay, God, those are my last few pennies. What do I do? And God taught me how to wait and still work on my craft. So I kept working on my craft, kept working on how I approach playing rather than just playing music. And I think 6 months after that, I got signed on by a Danish company that makes high-end guitar processing units, and called TC Electronics, and I was the first Indian signed on to them. I got signed on to D'Addario Strings last month, unofficially, and I still don't know how I got that. And this is a really nice story, and it sounds really nice, it feels really good, but what do I really want to take out of it? Now, what I really want you guys to take out from it is this. You can work as hard as you want. And it matters to nothing unless you give it to God. It really matters nothing until you give it to God. Whatever it is. I know God gives everybody talents for a reason. You may be blessed to be able to listen to people and just make them feel accepted. That's your talent. Your talent may be in being able to serve, or being able to play football, in being able to manage people, in being able to handle a process very well. But that talent, you need to learn to work on it. Okay, I have this little rule that I've learned through work. Is about there's smart work and hard work, and you can work really hard, but you can really work really smart. And I think my guitar playing has been a lot of smart work rather than just absolute hard work, because I know a lot of people keep saying practice 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and I believe that that's brilliant. And if that works for you, great. I have a short attention span, like half an hour and I'm dying. So I realized the only way it really works is if I plan what I'm going to practice within an hour and plan it right. And I think the key about, even in hard work, is really planning what you want to do and how you want to do it. Because sometimes I think even when we work, we waste a lot of time doing a lot of frills around our work that we really don't need to do. So really, I think God really taught me to just concentrate on what I really needed to work on in my craft, and I went after that with a vengeance. So I remember every day I would pick up, even if you come home, you know me now, you'll come home and you're having a conversation with me, and halfway during the conversation, you've not realized it, but my guitar's on my lap, I'm noodling away, but I still hear every single word that the other person's saying. But I believe that half an hour of practice every day, and like Uncle said very rightly, is if you make it a habit over a period of time, it just comes naturally. And I remember yesterday, we had a friend of mine I had a friend of mine coming over home, and we were having this conversation, and this conversation's happening, and we were listening to something, and I was noodling on my guitar as usual, and suddenly I was like, oh man, I figured out something I was trying to figure out for like 3 months, for the last 3 months on my guitar, and I kind of figured out theory-wise. And I really believe sometimes you need just have your basics right. Get your little time in, and I believe when we give to God, you give your best. Nobody sees it. I've really not spoken about how I've sat in practice, but God sees every minute you spend. And the best example I can take from this is from the Bible about the parable of the talents. Is God gives everybody a certain amount of talents. It doesn't matter whether I have 1, 3, or 5. It's what I do with what I have and how much. I actually said this for an interview some time back. I don't think I'm the best guitar player in town. I don't think I'm the best guitar player in the country, but I am the most blessed guitar player in the country, because I serve a God who takes my little and makes it into much. And I believe that is the difference. As Christians, we all believe hard work. The world works with hard work, and we do believe in hard work too. But there's a certain place where everybody's worked hard. Then what? And that's when God comes through. Because you can never achieve anything in life unless God does it for you. And the cool thing, the one thing about my story that I will turn around and say, do I deserve it? Deserve anything I've got? I'll turn around and say, I've got nothing to deserve it. But I've got everything I've got because God took the little work, took the little talent, the almost non-existent talent that I had, and as I worked on it, He made it grow into something I've never. 10 years ago, I laughed at myself if I ever thought I was going to do what I've been doing now. But God, I've seen the way God has just taken little and just done phenomenal with it. So I would really encourage you guys. I don't care whether you guys think you can't do something really well, but if you believe that God's given you a talent for a purpose, I'd really encourage you to take that and say, God, it is yours to do as you will. And then I'll assure you from what stuff that's happened in my life, stand back and be amazed with what God's going to do in your life. But just be prepared to give Him your all. Thank you.